Thank you, Jeremy. Good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to welcome you today to this meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee on Wednesday, the 17th of July. That just goes to show I can prove that I can read, if nothing else, anyway. Straight into the meeting, if we may, then. Item 1 is apologies for absence, and we have a couple, Jeremy, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Apologies from Paula O'Connor and also from Councillors Michael Locke and Leslie Walton.
That obviously explains why I'm sitting here rather than on the side now, because Paul was away, obviously. So, item 2 is disclosures of personal and prejudicial interest. Anybody got anything they want to declare? I will anyway, because Christ School is mentioned further on. Anybody else? Not seeing any hands anywhere, so that's okay, that's fine. Item 3 are the minutes. Everybody who's here at the moment will have had a chance to have a look at those minutes, read through them in detail, I'm sure. So, has anybody got any concerns in respect of those minutes? If not, would somebody like to propose that we accept them then, please? David,
somebody else.
Okay. We'll take you as a second and then Jeff and not mix if we may.
Yeah,
yes, that's no problem. I'll chair. Second, I'll chair.
Okay, thank you. So we move straight on to item 4. And that's with you, I think, Simon, this time. It's the Internal Audit Annual Report 2023-24. It's a small document that you will need to take us through.
I'll try to be concise, Chair. Thanks, Chair. Afternoon, everybody. Yeah, this is the annual report for the Internal Audit team for 23-24. It summarises the work of the team throughout the year and includes my Chief Auditor's opinion for 24-25, which also forms part of the annual governance statement later on in the agenda pack. So section 2 of the report gives a summary of the progress against the annual plan for 23-24. As you can see, 79% of the plan had been completed to at least draft report stage by year end, and an additional 10% of the plan was in progress at year end. So very positive outcome, with almost 80% of the plan being completed to at least draft stage, and almost 90% either complete or in progress at the year end, which is very positive from our perspective. The list of audits finalised can be found in Appendix 2 on page 33. And again, those have been provided to committee in the quarterly monitoring reports as well. So it's just a summary of those that have already been presented before. Of the reports that have been issued, 42% received a high level of assurance, and 48% received a substantial level of assurance. So overall, 90% of all the audits issued in the year were a positive assurance rating, as shown in 2.3 in the report on the chart that follows. The team issued 522 recommendations in year, and all of those were accepted by client departments, as shown in paragraph 2.4. As the committee will be aware, we have had some staff sickness throughout the year and also some vacant positions, which has resulted in a number of days being lost in the team. That represented about 15% of all resources for the year, as shown in paragraph 2.9. So despite this challenge, it's very pleasing to see that 80% of the plan have been completed, more or less. I'd like to personally thank the team for their continued support and dedication and their hard work throughout the year, because it has been yet another challenging year for the team, as you've been made aware through the quarterly reports. So thanks to the team for their hard work. Section 2.12 gives some other information on bits and pieces we've completed in the year, like grant certificates and other bits of reviews that we've completed. Section 3 summarises the follow-up work undertaken in the 12 months. Again, all the detailed follow-up information has been provided to committee in the quarterly reports. So this is just a summary, really, of that information. We do also have performance indicators that we used as part of the team. Those that were agreed by the Welsh Chief Auditors group a number of years ago. So we used, most of the local authorities in Wales use these as a sort of benchmark, really, to compare performance. The PIs can be seen in Appendix 3 on page 36. And that shows that at the end of the year, we met or exceeded 7 of the 8 PIs, which is another good positive result for the team. The public sector internal audit standards also require public sector audit departments to have a quality assurance and improvement program in place. That normally takes the form of an internal compliance review by myself. So I check compliance against the standards using the checklist, as I highlighted in the training session recently. However, this year's internal review has been replaced by the second external peer review, which was undertaken by Blaenau Gwent. So Section 5 covers this, and Section 5.5 gives a summary of the outcome. So the review was completed between December 2022 and August 2023, again by Blaenau Gwent, and the report was presented to the committee back in October 2023. To summarise, Swansea Council was assessed as being fully compliant with 303 of the 304 elements of the requirements, with only one partial compliance noted in relation to IT audit resource, which we are addressing throughout 24-25, sorry. So we were assessed as generally conforming with all of the standards in all significant areas, and we were assessed as being operationally independent and objective. So that's why I can include the statement of conformance there in paragraph 5.7 of the report to say we are compliant with the standards. And obviously you can see an extract of that external report in Appendix 4 on page 37. That was presented previously to committee, but I've included it here for completeness for you to review. Again, these standards require me to confirm the independent nature of the internal audit function within the organisation. Again, so that's set out in paragraph 6 of the report. And then to conclude, really, is the overall Chief Auditor's opinion in Section 7. This is based on the work undertaken in the past 12 months. So as I said, 90% of the audits issued in the year received a positive level of assurance, as shown in the table in paragraph 7.4. 5 audits did receive a moderate level of assurance in the year, and committee would have had a summary of those in the quarterly monitoring reports. We have a set of audits that are classed as fundamental systems or core systems that we prioritise every year. And of those 14 systems, 10 have now had a high level of assurance, and 3 have had a substantial level of assurance. So 13 out of the 14 key systems have had positive audit results to date. However, as you were aware, accounts receivable has received a limited assurance level in 23-24, following receipt of a number of moderate level assurance reports previously. But the Governance Audit Committee has had a number of updates from the Service Department in relation to this, and there's also further update later on in the agenda from that department. Throughout the year, as shown in paragraph 7.13, a significant amount of effort has continued to be directed at further strengthening the systems of risk management across the Council. Members are aware that you also receive detailed risk management reports from Richard, from the Strategic Delivery Performance Manager periodically. So that's shown further strengthening in that area throughout the 12 months. And obviously you're aware of ongoing developments with the new risk management system in the current financial year as well, which I'm sure we'll have updates on throughout the year. So based on the work undertaken in 23-24, it's my opinion that the governance and risk management arrangements across the Council are proven to be robust and effective throughout 23-24. However, as shown in paragraph 7.18, the Council continues to face several operational challenges following the decommissioning of Oracle R12 and the implementation of the new Oracle Fusion system. Officers across different services are currently having to implement manual workarounds to continue business as usual, as was touched on in the last meeting in relation to AR. I'm sure Ness updated you in that respect previously, so we are aware of that already. The Council's external auditors are due to undertake a review of the Fusion system and the implementation imminently, so we'll await the outcome of that report, and I'm sure that will be presented to the committee in due course. So to summarise, my overall opinion in paragraph 7.21, is my opinion based on the programme of work undertaken. The Council's framework of governance, risk management and internal control is effective with no significant weaknesses identified in 23-24. However, the Council is aware that the implementation of Oracle Fusion has resulted in a limited number of operational and technical issues. As a result, a number of controlled manual workarounds have been implemented in some services, to allow business to continue as usual. These workarounds obviously pose a potential risk to council operations and controls, and the extent to which is currently undetermined. It's envisaged that as the council works closely with the software provider to implement solutions to those issues identified, the need for such manual workarounds will diminish in 24-25, and we will keep a close eye on that throughout the next 12 months. So that's an overall summary, Chair, of the fairly hefty report, as you mentioned at the start of the meeting. The rest of the report is mostly appendices from page 23 onwards, and some further detail. So I'm happy to end the summary there, Chair, and take any questions if you'd like.
Thank you, Simon. Yes, indeed. Comprehensive report again, as it usually is, I have to say. Lots of information within the appendices. If anybody wants to bring any of those up after, we will. But in terms of the report that you've had to date, do any members want to raise any questions with Simon? I noticed, Mike, you got your hand up, and then afterwards we follow with Alan? Julie, sorry. So, sorry, Nick Davis first. Mike first, and then Julie, and then Nick will come back.
Thank you, Chair. Just one question for Simon. On page 13, you've got the risk levels, and you've got 4 high risk. How high risk are the 4 high risk? Because that is worrying that we've got 4 high risk. Could you be more specific or give us an overview?
I can give you some idea of the context, Mike, if that might be easier for you. The high risk recommendations normally relate to those audits that receive a moderate level of assurance. So it would be something that would be picked up in the moderate report monitoring that comes to the monitoring report, the monitoring summaries in the quarterly reports. So any of those high risk recs tend to relate to the reports that we concentrate more on in committee. I don't know what those 4 risks are at the moment. I can also come back to you aside of the meeting if needs be, but those relate to the moderate reports. So yeah, they are focused from both within the team and within the committee. So they do get sight of those detailed reports and summaries for review. So that hopefully gives you some assurance that you do see those high risk recommendations come into the committee for detailed review with the quarterly monitoring reports, Mike, if that's okay. I don't have the detail of those actual 4 at the moment, but I can come back to you aside if you'd like that. But that puts it into context for the monitoring of those high risk recommendations.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that. Julie, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I'd just like to concur with what you said, Simon. We're all aware that it's been another challenging year for you in terms of resources, and I'm sure all of the rest of the committee will join you in thanking the staff for the work that they've done in providing an assurance for this committee. Could I take you to the PIs? I've just got one question.
Yeah.
You say that PI8 is the PI that you haven't achieved, but this is identified as average cost per directly chargeable day. Now, in my interpretation of that, from previous roles, that would only be the days that would be directly chargeable to a client. And yet, we're in the main body of the report on page 15, you state as a reason for not meeting this PI, the sickness and vacancies. So would you be able to go back to the Welsh Chief Internal Auditors Group to find out exactly what other local authorities are measuring in this PI, and perhaps have a discussion on whether the measurement is totally relevant?
Yeah, fine, Julie. You are correct. I mean, there's further detail on that PI in the appendix. Bear with me a second. Appendix 5. It does give a bit more information on it. So yeah, it is the directly chargeable costs are basically salary costs for the team that are chargeable to productive days. And obviously, because of sickness increase and vacancy issues, the number of productive days that were on the plan were significantly lower in reality because of vacancies, sickness, also increased training, induction time, where we wouldn't really expect that to be chargeable to a particular client, for example. So the costs have remained relatively stable, as you'll see in the summary box and page. Pardon me. Page 50, to give some more
Okay.
background to that. So the costs have remained fairly static, but productive days has dropped quite significantly because of those issues, Julie, because of sickness, vacancy, as I mentioned previously, throughout the year. But yeah, I'm happy to take that back for discussion with the Chief Auditors Group. I mean, we have looked at these periodically through the last couple of years for their relevance. And again, as you can see in the summary table in the body of the report, the actual comparators for these figures for this financial year, for 23-24, weren't available at the time of compiling the report. So I've had to use prior year's comparators, which obviously skew the comparators anyway, because they don't take account of inflationary pressures. But yeah, I'm happy to take that back to the group, Julie, and for discussion with them about this. We do talk about these quite often in Chief Auditors meetings about their relevance going forward. But yeah, happy to take that comment on board.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Before I go to the other members in the room, did you want to come in at this stage, Nick?
Yes, please, Chair. Thanks very much. Sort of pick up a couple of things from Simon's report, really, and you know what Julie mentioned. Comments, with the team and the team's performance last year under the difficult circumstances, with the high levels of sickness and vacancy. So just to commend that, really, because I work closely with the staff on a day-to-day basis, and to complete nearly 80% of the plan is a fantastic achievement. I know they've worked extremely hard to attain that completion rate, and it's certainly the best we've had for several years. So I just wanted to put that point forward, and thank you, Chair.
Okay, Nick, I understand and hear what you're saying. David?
Thanks, Chair. Simon, just a few points. I'll pick up first on what was my third point, but I'll pick it up first because Julie's mentioned it. When you mention about the cost of the chargeable costs and things like that, you mentioned about the 15% lost days due to sickness and absence. Is it not possible to calculate that financially so you get a flip side as well as the chargeable days, the actual cost of lost days, really? So it gives you an actual balanced view on that performance indicator. I just wonder if that's possible with that 15%. So it gives us a two-dimensional figure, if you like, one, the chargeable cost, but also the lost cost, if you like, due to the sickness and absence you mentioned, especially that 15% figure. That should be an indicator of what that cost is, really. Just wondered what you thought of that.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea, actually, Dave. I thought of that myself in terms of doing the comparative of the two. I can look into it. I think there is a possibility of doing some sort of valuation of that 15%. I don't know how I would do it, but I think there probably is a way to calculate or give an estimate of that to compare it to, obviously, the PI8 results. I'm happy to take that back and come back to the committee and consider that in due course. That's probably a very good idea to have a flip side of the failure to achieve the PI. That's a good comparator. Thanks, David.
Okay. My main question was really, and I think it's a standing item between the two of us around the resource, because I ask you every time. But it was around, you mentioned, I think last time in the quarterly report, you still got a vacancy recruitment issue. And obviously there's the backdrop of long-term sickness. But I just wonder if there'd been a look at the skill mix in the team, and particularly because you've had trouble with recruitment and everything, whether there was an opportunity around secondment from those areas that are heavily audited, like housing, social care, education, and whether there was an opportunity for people, to put their foot in the water, put the toe in the water, see what it's like, and maybe that would be a lead into a more, far more successful recruitment in the long term. I just wonder if that'd been looked at as an option.
In terms of secondments, Dave, we haven't really looked at that as an option, I'll be honest with you. When we do advertise the positions, they are advertised both internally and externally. So that's just the general advertising for any post in the local authority. I'm not sure how many people might be interested in coming to join Audit. I'm not sure if that's the most glamorous area of the local authority to join and start their career. We have had a number of people come from other departments, from accountancy, from benefits. So the interest is out there. I'm more than happy to take that back to CMT and obviously ask the directors if they would be willing to allow us to ask for secondments, because obviously resource from one area into ours is giving them an issue with resource, essentially, isn't it? It's just passing the problem on sometimes. But
so I think if you've got an actual vacancy, obviously there's money there. You can actually backfill the vacancy in the other department. Really, there's an accounting thing that can be done really to do that. So the money shouldn't be an issue, but I think it may be an opportunity for the staff, particularly from those areas I mentioned, to actually gain the experience and insight into the internal audit. Again, it's just an idea in principle, really. I just wonder if you want to think about it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, just to make you aware, as a committee, obviously we have the partial conformance point about the IT audit issue. We are looking at possibly procuring an external IT provision to support that, and obviously that would be in addition to the existing plan and would make use of any of the resources that we currently have available due to the vacancies. So that would cover off both the resource issue and the IT coverage. So we are looking into this, Dave. I can't commit to anything at the moment because it's in discussion, but it is a work in progress, shall we say, and we are making good progress to identify and address that. So that is another element to consider aside of the general resource we have at the moment. We are looking to try and buy some in from a specialist provider.
Okay, I'm going to just reiterate again, as mentioned by others, that, you know, the work you've done over the year and compliments to the staff, really, because it's obviously quite challenging times, and particularly for an audit process. So thanks very much for that. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, David.
Gordon, if I may, and I'll come to you afterwards then, Mike.
Hi, Simon. And
Hi,
again,
Gordon.
congratulations on your performance with the difficulty in resources that you have. But can I take your chief auditor's opinion on paragraph 721? Can you just expand for me a little bit on the word material?
Sorry, we just get the page, sorry.
It's you say that the weaknesses have no material impact on the council's financial affairs or achievements. What do you judge as material?
Page 21 it is, Simon.
Yeah, I've got it. Thanks, Chair. I've got it here. I think I'm not sure if you understand the term of materiality. So, for example, in standard accountancy practice, materiality, when we compile the annual accounts, for example, would be £1 million for any adjustments. So, as an internal audit provider, we can't provide absolute assurance over all areas. We provide a level of assurance that is acceptable to the organisation. So we can't guarantee that every penny is where it should be exactly. You know, it's sort of an overall opinion. So materiality really is how dramatic or how big of an issue might be causing the councils to achieve its objectives. So if there's something minor, which we don't consider to be a high risk, small risk or low risk, it wouldn't have a massive impact on the achievement of the council's objectives or the financial standing or the financial controls. In that respect, it would not be considered to be material, if that makes any sense, Gordon. However, something that's really significant and really sort of high value would have a massive impact on the council's affairs or council's achievement of its objectives or its performance would be considered as a material and would have to be declared as part of a declaration in the chief auditor's opinion.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So are you saying in financial terms, materiality is about £1 million, is it?
It depends on the turnover of the organisation. I just use that as an example for the local authority. I think when they audit a grant, for example, the materiality is £1 because it has to be substantiated to the penny. But when you look at auditing accounts and making adjustments to those accounts, it's the materiality level that is set by the external reviewer that determines whether those adjustments need to be made, essentially, if that makes sense. So it depends on the size of the organisation, the value of their assets, the amount of income and expenditure they have as an organisation as well. So it's not as clear cut as being £1 million for everybody. It depends on the organisation itself.
Okay, thank you.
So it is a measure of judgment, that's the judgment that you use at the end of the day in terms of how important it is in the scheme of things.
That's right, Chair. Yeah.
Mike then.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can I just obviously Councillor Lewis raised the issue of the five high or as you say moderate. Within the Appendix 2, we've actually between the Appendix 2, Q1 to Q4, we have got 5 moderates. So are they the 5 that could what Councillor Lewis is on about? Yes.
Yeah. Normally,
those are the 5, are they?
Normally, Mike, if a report has a high risk recommendation, it would automatically come out as a moderate report. So that is a good linkage between those 5. The 5 moderate reports would link in with those high risk recommendations. Yeah, so there's a direct link there.
Yeah, so those are the 5 within the Q1 to Q4 for 23-24. Yeah, okay, thanks, Simon.
Great, thanks, Mike.
I'm not seeing any other further hands up. but I'm going to make a very niggling one just to prove that I've actually read it all the way through. And that is 721. Basically, you've got exact 2 lines outside of your grey box.
I know that's formatting, Chair. When it was uploaded onto the
I
system,
know.
it skewed the formatting. You can blame
So-
Jeremy for that one.
So that basically was just to prove that I have read it all the way through, not for you to think I hadn't. But having said that, obviously, you've given us a report, you've heard the comments. I'm only going to reiterate what has been said, which is to thank you for the report that you've presented. We're impressed that you've managed 80%, with a reduced workforce. Obviously, from what has already been said by Nick, that implies how well they've worked. Well is not the right word, but competently they've worked in that time to get there. So on behalf of the committee, our thanks to you for the work that you've done, and we'll leave it at that at this point in time, and you can relax a little bit now.
Yeah, thanks for your positive comments, everyone. I'll feed that back to the team, and thanks for your comments, Chair. Really appreciate it. Thanks very much.
I've been told that I should say something else as well, so unfortunately I got Jeremy keeping me under control, and basically we do need and will keep and follow. Pardon?
Just note it.
We do have to note the progress made against the internal audit plan as a committee, so we will do that with everybody's consent. So my thanks to Jeremy for keeping me on the straight and narrow. Okay, thank you. That'll move us on to item 6. 5, sorry, can't count now even. The internal audit review of the accounts receivable function. Ness, I guess you're taking us through that.
Thank you, Chair. So this report is in respect of an internal audit review of the accounts receivable system, which was undertaken in March 2024. The system's managed by the AR team within Human Resources and the Service Centre, and it's used by all invoice generating services across the council. So the objectives of the review were to ensure adequate controls are in place to minimise business risk and to verify the effective operation of these controls. The review awarded the AR function a limited assurance level. The report made 28 recommendations and 9 of those were repeated from previous audits. So in terms of background, the report sets out that the level of aged debt has increased in the council due to several factors over recent years, including the pandemic, which prompted a decision not to pursue outstanding debts for a period of time, the economic downturn, which has affected businesses and individuals, and also staff resource constraints in the AR team, legal and wider services, and more recently, some challenges with the implementation of Oracle Fusion. In terms of the current position, following the January 24 committee meeting, because this committee has been monitoring the AR functions progress for some time, a task and finish project was initiated to address the aged debt and implement the audit recommendations of the previous audits. That project then brought into its scope the latest audit report. And I'm pleased to say that the report says 24 of the 28 recommendations have been implemented. I can confirm that it's actually 25 as of today. Recommendation 3.3 has now also been implemented, which relates to the refund report, which was a change request being made of the Oracle system. The remaining 3 are on track for completion by the end of September. And the progress that has been made across the last 3 months is set out then in the report in terms of some of the actions that have been taken. So the project board has met monthly since February 2024, and its particular focus has been on the oldest debt, so over 365 days. So we've taken a number of actions. We've been sending heads of service detailed regular reports of all their debts over 60 days, including those in dispute and those requiring evidence of debt. and they are being actively resolved by those service areas. We've also brought in additional staff resources to the AR team and the legal team to ensure that they have the capacity they need to work through these debts. And finally, an important piece of work was a reconciliation of the debt lists held by AR and the debt list held by the legal team, and that exercise is now completed and those two lists have been reconciled. So in terms of the current position, table 1 shows in the report shows the performance over the last 3-4 months on debt over 365 days as at a set point, because debt is moving all of the time. So what we've done is chosen the 15th of January as a baseline and said all the debt that was over 365 days at that point, that's what we're measuring, so we can demonstrate that we are making progress on that overall figure. And you'll see in table 1 that we have reduced the volume of that debt by 30% and the value of that debt by 22.5% between January, February and now. And 44% of that remaining debt has a specific hold reason, so there is action being taken on it, although it hasn't yet been resolved, and the balance is actively being pursued by services. So in conclusion, I'd like to reassure the board, the committee, that this measures that we've taken are effectively reducing our age debt situation, with a notable decrease in our debts over 365 days. We've also done considerable engagement with utility companies, and that has seen real improvement in the level of our utility debt. And we've also implemented, as I say, 25 of the 28 recommendations in the audit report. We will continue with our efforts to pursue all debt categories and improve our system functionality and maintain our enhanced staffing. And I would like to come back to committee in October and give you a further update then, if that's okay. And I think the final point to note is just recognising the impact that the economy is having on businesses and individuals. We are seeing people and businesses paying bills more slowly, but it is also worth noting that 90% of council debt is recovered within 1 year. So with that, Chair, I open out for discussion and happy to take questions.
Sorry, David, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Ness, for the report. And I think that's previous item really compliments to the staff in the AR department for such a sterling piece of work really for the last 6 months, and the figures are quite outstanding really in regard to debt recovered over 365 days. So obviously so thanks for that. So in view of the performance of the last 6 months in getting that debt, do you feel by the end of this financial year, so March next 25, do you think that the debts will be online then, everything will be actually back to where it should be? Thank you.
Thanks. I think there's sort of 2 steps really for me. We are aiming as a project to have dealt with all of the audit recommendations by the end of September, and I'm in discussion with Simon and his colleagues about what success looks like for that, because you'll never get rid of all of the debt. It is always a moving picture. So we need to agree what good enough looks like to have addressed that. By the end of the financial year, I would hope that we will have in all categories a level of debt which is deemed to be good, not just reasonable, but good by comparison to other organisations. And so that's my aim as the chair of this project board.
Just one other point briefly on 3.6, you mentioned about the staff shortages within the legal and AR teams, and obviously that's still in the backdrop in hampering the work, if you like, in that sense. I just wondered, similar to what I was mentioning with Simon, whether an opportunity, because of the amount of money that's been recovered, whether there was a pub prime or a backfill situation which would actually say for the remainder of this financial year, give that opportunity, like with agency staff or whatever, to backfill the key people to actually get on with the work and again make progress. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm satisfied at the moment that in our legal team and our AR team we have sufficient resource to be getting on, because we have put in that additional resource. However, we are seeing, as a consequence of the work, a higher number of referrals to legal, which is good because it means that we're taking, we're moving to that point of legal action against non-payers where appropriate. But that may mean that in time we need to bolster that legal resource a bit further. And as a project team, that's something we discuss every month in terms of staffing levels, so we can make sure that we can flex that. And we have sufficient sort of flexibility to be able to do that. So I'm quite confident on that point. I think the wider point in 3.6 was around some of the services where we have particularly high levels of debt. Their teams may be struggling in terms of resources to look at all of those debts in a timely way. And so there are discussions going on with heads of service in those particular areas about how we can speed up the process of them looking at these debts and referring them, and just trying to make the process easier so that we can get through them as fast as possible.
Thanks for that, Ness. And again, through like a troubleshooting situation you've done the last 6 months, there's a lot of lessons learned there, isn't there, in regard to performance of actually the team really in that quite intense piece of work.
I think what it's shown us is that actually you do need to get under the bonnet as to what's happening with some of the processes. And a key example of that is the utility debt. And the utility debt is built up partly because of the sort of challenges posed by the pandemic, and decisions made by the utility companies and ourselves around processing of invoices during that time. But actually, we're doing a really positive piece of work with Dua Cymru at the moment around trying to improve that process. There's a trial going on. It's been going on for a month now, and we had a review meeting last week, and it's going well. So it's been a really good experience from that point of view. And if that proves to be successful at the end of 3 months, we will then seek to roll that out with other utility companies.
Thanks, Les, for your response. And again, compliments to the team. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to call in Jeff Jones, if I may.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Ness really has answered some of my question anyway. I was going to compliment really, what a difference really, the resources actually made additional resource to the debt. I think you did say that we're actually going to keep this resource in place to keep debts under control. The only thing I was going to actually say on Appendix 1 really was the last figure being pursued by service areas. I think you actually mentioned anyway, but they seem to be taking a lot more, shall we say, responsibility than they did in the past.
Thank you. I think what we've managed to do is elevate or raise the profile of the debt within service areas. So heads of service are now, the reports are going direct to them rather than to service managers, and we're having a more active dialogue around debt throughout each month, and that is helping to really shift those invoices through the system.
Well done anyway.
Thanks, Jeff. Julie?
Thank you, Chair. And please pass on my thanks to your team as well. I know that Michelle Davis, the manager, has been to this committee on several occasions, and it's nice to see that the work is progressing as quickly as it is now. I've got a question for Simon. The first 3 recommendations start with the words "services should be reminded," and as I've said, Michelle has presented to the committee on several occasions that that services have been reminded of their responsibilities, but it hasn't necessarily resulted in any improvements. So could you have a look at how recommendations are worded in future to make sure that they're outcome focused, because otherwise they can easily become a tick box exercise. So services can say that they've completed the action, but it hasn't actually resulted in any improvement for the service.
Yeah, thanks for those comments, Julie. We have had a discussion with Ness on this already, actually, to take this forward. So we are aware of this already, Julie, and we'll take that on board for the next review, and obviously going forward for other audits to be more targeted recommendations.
Thank you.
And Mike White.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd also like to endorse the steering work that's been done because, as Judy has said, we've had a couple of visits by our staff regarding issues that have been flagged up. Can I ask Ness, in regards to the community alarm section, 3.2, there and under the bullet points, the last bullet point, is community alarm still done with a neighbouring authority? I thought the service was done via Carmarthenshire. I'm not sure if that's still the case. And also in regards to the utility companies, especially street works, because obviously they deal with, as you said, Cymru and Western Power. Is there one utility company that seems to be sort of dragging their heels when it comes to payment?
On the first point around community alarms, I believe it is still a partnership with Carmarthenshire, but I will have to confirm that because it's not my area of expertise. And in terms of the utility companies, they all have their challenges. It's just some utility companies we have much higher levels of bills with. So I think Dŵr Cymru probably is the highest level of bills that we have. But as I say, we're working really well in terms of progressing those through. But it is a challenge with each of the utility companies, just because the invoices are numerous and the value is very low, so they can quite quickly stack up. But as I say, we are making strides across all of them, which is positive.
Thanks, Ness. Thank you very much.
Okay, I assume, Jeff, that's a legacy hand with you, is it? Or did you want to come back?
No, it's a legacy. My apology.
Okay.
Apologies. Yeah.
Pardon? Oh, Mike, your hand has come back up, Mike Lewis now, so over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I'm looking at the table of the status of debt over the last year, and most of the items there are relatively similar, except for the item being pursued by service areas. And I think I got to thank Ness for her initiative going direct to heads of service to try and reduce the debt. And indeed, looking at the figures, the reduction in debt is nearly all from service areas. So thank you for all your hard work, and thank you for getting a grip of this particular problem, which since I've been the last 5 years on governance and audit has always been a recurring problem every year. But it does look like that you have made inroads into recouping the money that is owed to the authority. So thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
I'm not seeing any further hands now, so on that basis, I haven't got any questions for you because I think it's all been covered anyway, Ness. So just to say thank you very much for the report. Obviously, a grip is beginning to be got, if that's the right way of putting it. And perhaps you'd take our thanks back to the department for so doing.
Chair, can I thank you very much for your comments, and I certainly will pass your comments back to the team. They have worked so hard, and we're really starting to see the tanker turn, and it's pleasing for the team as well to see the kind of fruits of their labours. So thank you for those comments.
Okay, before we move on, just one thing I'd like to say, which I forgot to say for the report from Simon. I noticed, Simon, you had a very good report. Oh, sorry. Yes, you had a very good report from Blaenau Gwent. Nice. It's always nice to get an external report, which obviously struggled very hard to find anything to criticise. So compliments to the department on that, I think. Nobody else had picked it up, but certainly I meant to mention it then. But just one complaint, I can't be bad out of 300, can it? So congratulations on that.
Thanks for those comments, Chair. I think this was discussed when the report was presented back in, I think it was August. I think it was raised, as a positive. But yeah, again, congratulations to the team for being very, very sort of strong in compliance. The partial compliance, as I said, has been addressed, has been looked into, as I did discuss, about the IT resource. So again, hopefully that will be covered off and ready for the next review, which isn't due until another 5 years. But yeah, thanks for the positive comments, Chair. But I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Just to finalise this section, then we need to note the report. I'm confident that the committee is happy to do that. Nobody's arguing, so that's fine. Thank you. That moves us on to item 6, which is the draft annual governance statement. I understand Richard's away, so Ness, you have the pleasure of actually taking us through this report now then.
Sorry, you have to listen to me again.
Pardon?
You said, sorry, you'll have to listen to me again. So this report provides the draft annual governance statement for 23-24, and it gives you the opportunity as a committee to review and comment on it prior to council approval as part of the statement of accounts. The Accounts and Audit Wales Regulations 2014 is what requires an annual review of our governance arrangements, and it must accompany those annual accounts, as I said. The AGS consolidates the review of the governance arrangements and is informed both by internal and external assurance sources. It has a number of key components. It reflects compliance with the Code of Corporate Governance. It evaluates the effectiveness of our governance arrangements throughout the year, identifies planned changes and improvements for the upcoming period, and also looks at the principles of good governance. It's structured around 7 principles from the Sit for Solace framework, those being integrity and ethical values, openness and stakeholder engagement, sustainable economic, social and environmental outcomes, interventions for intended outcomes, capacity and leadership development, risk management and internal control, transparency, reporting, accountability, and the key findings are set out in the annex. Just to pick up a few points from the annex. Assurance statements are produced by directors, the 5 directors in the council, and 56% demonstrated strong application, 31 were described as embedded, and 11% were regarded as showing mixed application in categories like compliance, future generations and equality, and performance reviews. And where those are identified areas for improvement, those are set out in the areas for improvement in 24-25, and there were 2 with limited application relating to performance reviews and data security. In terms of strategic governance issues then for 24-25, these have been identified by the strategic governance group, which includes key council officers and also members of this committee. The Chief Auditor's opinion gave an overall adequacy and effectiveness of the Council's framework for governance, risk management and internal control, and deemed that these were effective. No significant weaknesses were identified in 23-24. So with that, Chair, the AGS will be reported to Council for approval and subsequently published, but in the meantime, the committee is invited to comment on the draft in front of you.
Thanks, Ness. I'll now throw it open to the committee to see if there's any comments coming forward. Julie, you got your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of small comments, Ness. On page 74, it states LGBT. Should that now be expanded to LGBTQ+?
Yes.
Okay, and page 79, Principle G, assurance and effective accountability, states that agreed actions from internal audit reviews are monitored, but isn't this also now true of actions from external reviews? And if so, that will strengthen governance in that area. And paragraph 815, which is the Chief Auditor's report. Simon, you've noted the 5 moderate and 1 limited assurance opinion, but there's no recognition of the monitoring of agreed actions that you perform. So I was wondering whether you could consider whether that should be included to further strengthen governance. That's all.
Thank you, Julie. So on your first 2 points, absolutely, and thank you for picking those up. And I'll pass over to Simon for the 3rd point.
Yeah, thanks, nice. Thanks, Julie. Yeah, completely agree, Julie. There's no harm in adding that additional control into the AGS just to demonstrate the follow-up and the follow-up work that we do. Happy to take that back to Richard when he returns with slightly amended commentary in that section, Julie, to add that in.
Great, thank you.
Just a footnote from me, really. I'm looking for, well, the rest of the committee, really, the training that we got arranged on the 25th, which is a week tomorrow. So it's just obviously looking forward to that on governance itself. And I'm told the speaker's very, very good. Thank you.
You put your hand up, Jeff?
Yeah, perhaps I'm misreading. I don't quite understand point 7, 7.1. Actually down there, it's actually on about, you know, the financial monitoring reports. It actually mentions offsetting actions were projected available to reduce the overspend to a residual 3.284 million, which the One Fire officer continued to strongly advise Cabinet had to be eliminated. What exactly, what does that mean?
Thank you. So what that means is that there was in 23-24 there was a forecast overspend of 3.284 million, and so what Ben was saying was that the officers and cabinet had to find a way of getting rid of that overspend, so taking action to eliminate that overspend.
Right, thanks. I didn't read it that way at all. It just said cabinet had to be eliminated, so didn't quite understand.
I'm not sure what you're suggesting now, Jeff, I must admit. There we go.
Nothing of the.
Okay.
I'm not insinuating anything. I just couldn't quite understand.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, I got no further comments on that, and obviously the reporter's statement as it stands is something that will obviously go now to full council and hopefully be approved there at that point in time. Item 7 is the draft governance and audit committee annual report for 23-24, which will also go to council. I think the committee has been asked whether it wants to make or recommend any changes to that. Trust you've all read it through. I'm not seeing any indications. Oh, yes, I am. Jeff, you want to come in on that?
Sorry, you left thy hand up again.
Oh, sorry, it was a legacy hand. Okay, that's fine. Certainly, I thought it was fine. I didn't see any problems with it myself. Are we happy to let that go forward then, please, as it is to full council? Yeah, I'm not seeing any objections to that. So that brings us to the main part of the agenda, but we will obviously look next at get the turnover probably. Pardon? The tracker first of all, and then the work plan. But the tracker first of all, you're going to take us through that, Jeremy?
Yeah, just one update or two updates, Chair. You see in the tracker minutes 46 and 45. They were due to be closed down today, but the report has slipped to September. There's two reports there. Together we can, and they missed opportunity. Those two will now be reported to September's meeting at the moment. So that needs to be amended. Yeah, and also on that, Chair, as well, the items, those two items were noted in the work plan as being for today, but they will be moved to September's meeting. Okay.
Something to look forward to, September, and In the meantime, obviously, you're all going away on holidays, obviously, as far as this committee is concerned. So I wish you pleasure of that break, and say thank you very much for everybody who's participated today. And at that point in time, I'll close the meeting. I'm sure Paula will be glad to be back in September, and I'm sure I'll be even more pleased that she's back. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Well done, yeah.
Bye all.
Thank you, Chair. Bye-bye.
Bye.